Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, how do you train for the unexpected? Plus, ammunition and some tips for your next coyote hunt. An update on the bump stock ban a week before it becomes law, and more. And as always, call 866-TALK-GUN with your comments, questions, and range reports. And now, here's Tom.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Tom Gresham here. Do we have a lot to talk about. By the way, this is Tom Gresham. It is Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. Who else is going to be dumb enough to do a show like this, right? Talk about guns for hours and hours and hours. Guns and shooting and self-defense and hunting and collecting and scopes and ammo and gear and holsters. Yeah. If it's about guns, we'll pretty much talk about it here. Keeping in mind, of course, we're the good guys and gals. We're the ones that the media does not report on. We do it right. We do it safely. And we work really hard to encourage others to be safe with their gun handling and to be responsible with their gun storage. Okay? We're the ones who actually do gun safety, not like the gun ban groups who claim they are gun safety groups. It's interesting how they keep redefining themselves, renaming themselves. You know, it was Handgun Control Incorporated. And then it became the Brady Group. It was the National Coalition to Ban Handguns. Oh, yeah, started by the Methodist Church, by the way. And then they changed their name. Each time they claim, and they start out thinking, everybody agrees with us. We have to ban guns. We have to ban this segment of guns or that segment of guns or restrict guns this way. We have to control handguns. We have to ban handguns or we have to do something. And then they realize, ooh, wait a minute. The public doesn't actually want that. We're going to have to hide what we're all about. Now we're gun safety groups. That's the ticket. We're gun safety groups. Nice. I like that. Oh, that'll work. Okay. We'll just all claim that we're gun safety groups. We never taught a class on gun safety. We don't teach gun safety. We don't preach gun safety. We don't put gun safety classes into schools. We're gun ban groups, but we're going to claim that we're gun safety groups. Yeah, more of the same. Always been that way. I've been following this for 50 years. A lot of things going on. Yes, I'm going to talk about the New Zealand shooter in just a moment. Okay. Also in Connecticut this week, the Connecticut Supreme Court made a horrible decision full of ignorant nonsense, allowing the lawsuit to go forward. This is the lawsuit about the Sandy Hook shooting, the Newtown shooting, school shooting, wanting to hold Bushmaster and Remington, the rifle being used, that was used in that crime, want to hold them legally responsible for the murderous acts of this young man. Let's see. He didn't buy a gun. He didn't go through the background check. The gun store didn't sell him anything. The manufacturer didn't sell him anything. He murdered his mother and stole her guns and then went in and shot a bunch of school kids. But the Connecticut Supreme Court says, yeah, you could go ahead and sue them. It's okay. Now, there was a bill was passed. There's a law in this country now that says gun makers and gun stores cannot be held legally liable for the misuse of a perfectly functioning firearm. That is, if a gun maker makes a gun and it doesn't misfire, if there's not a product problem with it, if it works the way it's supposed to, and if the gun store sells a gun following all the laws, then the manufacturer and the gun store cannot be sued when somebody takes that gun somewhere along the line, some years later, and misuses it. That is, uses it in a crime. It makes sense. You wouldn't sue Ford or Chevy when someone takes a car and kills somebody in a drunk driver accident. Well, maybe you would, actually. These people just might want to try that. But the Connecticut Supreme Court said, yeah, there is this federal law, but we found a teeny tiny crack in it that we think we can wedge this thing in. And they sent it back to the lower court to go forward. Now, I think it's going to go nowhere. But it probably will get appealed to the Supreme Court. We'll see. It's a bad decision. And when you read it, 87 pages long, it's full of just BS nonsense about semi-automatic military-style weapons that have no place on the street. And you're going, really? Out of this whole thing, that's what you guys got out of this? I mean, nobody's paying attention here. They're just judges doing what they want to do because they think it'll make the world a better place, regardless of what the actual law is. Well, we'll keep you posted on that. Also, we are, let's see, what is today? Today's 17th. We are 9 days away from the federal bump stock ban going into place, going into effect. A lot of gun owners say, who cares? Those are silly little things. Yes, they are. But an awful lot of gun owners have now taken a second look at it and realized, oh, wait, I thought this was a no big deal, the who cares kind of a thing. But I realize now this is a big deal, because if they can arbitrarily proclaim this device to be a machine gun, if they can arbitrarily, without an act of Congress, without a law being passed, say, if you own this, you will go to prison for 10 years, then they can do that to anything. They can do that to any semi-automatic firearm. And you say, well, no, they couldn't. Well, yes, they could. Because for years they said bump stocks were legal and they were fine and they were not machine guns. And then they just did a flip-flop and went, oh, but now they are. Yesterday they weren't, now they are. Yesterday you were legal, now you've committed a federal felony. Gun didn't change. We just decided to reclassify it without an act of Congress, without a law being passed. And if that happens, if that's left to stand, what is to prevent the ATF under, let's say a Democrat in the White House and a democratically controlled Congress from doing the same thing with nobody to stop them? We've seen what happened at the FBI when they decided we don't want this president, we don't want this man to be president. Break the law, lie, cheat, steal, create fake dossiers, go on and on and on. Just apply that to ATF and say, and you go, well, they couldn't do it. Yes, they could. They just did it with the bump stock ban. We'll see. We'll get more on that a little bit later in the show. Tell you what, when we come back, I want to talk about the New Zealand shooter. I have watched the video. Don't know if you've seen it. It is instructive. There are some things, some serious things we can take away, and there's some things from that, as horrible as it is, that you can use to enhance your safety. 866-TALK-GUN.
Your everyday carry advantage. The new M&P Shield M2.0 pistol from Smith & Wesson has the enhancements of the M2.0 line with aggressive grip texture and a crisp and lighter trigger pull. Extremely thin and lightweight, you can carry it all day. Also available with an integrated crimson trace laser in 9 or 40. The M&P Shield M2.0. Visit smith-wesson.com.
Since 1937, Ducks Unlimited has led the charge on wetlands and waterfowl conservation. Wetlands reduce the effects of flooding and recharge our drinking water, but perhaps most importantly, they allow us to experience what makes the outdoors so great. Band together to rescue our wetlands.
Tired of searching the web for the best deals on guns, ammunition, and gear? Download the free Gun Dealio app today for deals and discounts right at your fingertips. Handguns, rifles, shotguns, ammo, optics, lasers, gun safes, targets, gun cleaners, grips, slings, and much, much more. Save money on products you want from the companies you love. New deals, discounts, and rebates added daily. Gun Dealio, available for free in the App Store and Google Play.
Hey, this is Marty Dangle of Dangle Defense. For years, we've been bringing the highest quality ARs to our consumers at a great value. Now we're doing that same thing again with our Delta 5 bolt-action rifle. It combines the accuracy and durability we're known for with the modularity of our AR platform. And it comes with the features the best shooters will want right out of the box. Visit DanielDefense.com to learn more. Isn't it time you got a Daniel?
Okay, got a couple calls, and then I'm going to talk about the New Zealand shooting. Edward on line 1 out of San Diego. Edward, you're up.
Hey, Tom. Edward here in San Diego, California.
Yes, sir. You say you got good news from out there. What's up?
Do, yes. Well, of course, we're behind enemy lines here in San Diego, being in California. After Parkland, a group calling itself Never Again California, funded by Everytown, set up shop here and has been pretty much visiting every council, every school board, that sort of thing, to try to enact anti-gun resolutions and what have you. One of the things they were able to achieve was to get shooting banned on BLM land, Bureau of Land Management. And long story short, San Diego County gun owners, we're a PAC, I'm a volunteer here, has been representing us in all of these matters. And we had a win recently. Really? A letter came down from the Department of the Interior, basically notifying the county board. Actually went to our local representative, and a letter will be going to the board, letting them know that this is unconstitutional and unenforceable, and that's on federal land, which obviously has implications throughout the country.
You bet. That is terrific. We'll for those who don't know, BLM out west, BLM land, that's millions and millions of acres where people generally go to recreate, including shooting. And for somebody to say you can't shoot there is actually a terrific blow against Second Amendment rights. Edward, congratulations. Well done. And look, I appreciate you passing that along. Line 2, Mark, Tinley Park, Illinois. Quickly, Mark, what's your concern here?
Hi, Tom. I have a Smith Bodyguard and a Taurus G2C, and two of the selling point, or at least one of the selling points on both of them was a restrike capability. You know, as in your round doesn't go off, you pull the trigger again, and hopefully then it goes off. Well, the concern I have with that is, and I've been shooting since 1988 and probably shot close to 100,000 rounds. Most of the time when I've pulled the trigger on a semi-auto and it went click instead of bang, it wasn't that the round didn't go off. It was, that you didn't have a round in the chamber. You thought you did, but you know, a lot of times it happens that you didn't quite pull it far enough back, and then it pushes the round a little bit forward on the magazine, but then it closes and there's no round in there.
Okay.
If you're in a life and death situation and you're depending on restrike capability, you've just taken away a second needed to pull the slide back and get another round in there.
Okay. Let me give you my take on this, okay? And I'm right there with you. People need to know how to do malfunction drills. If it goes click, you need to be able to do a tap rack and get back in the fight. However, the reality is this, and I could argue this both ways. If you are in the middle of a life and death situation, you pull the trigger, it goes click, you're going to pull the trigger again. You're just going to. It's what's going to happen. And that will take a tenth of a second. And if it goes click again, you're going to go, oh, tap rack. Okay, we're going to go. If you're lucky enough and the second time you pull the trigger, it goes bang, you're back in, it's a good deal. I don't see it as a negative as long as you don't train to depend upon it. Just understand that under stress, when you pull the trigger, you're probably going to pull the trigger like 3 or 4 times. Every time we do force-on-force work for our first-person offender show, people, even if they're trained, they empty their guns. Just bang, 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 when somebody's trying to kill them. and you're going to pull the trigger more than once. And so why not have the ability that maybe you got a light strike, maybe it's a hard primer, maybe it goes off the second time, but if it doesn't, you can still do your tap rack and get it going again. So I don't see it as a negative, but I do appreciate your comment, because the current concern would be, don't think that that is a substitute for ingraining in you the necessity to do tap rack and to do malfunction drills. You need to know how to clear your firearm and get it back in the fight no matter what. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. All right, let me talk a little bit about this New Zealand mass shooting. 50 people dead now. Okay? A few takeaways. The shooter had multiple guns. He went there to kill as many people as possible. Part of his manifesto, you may not be aware, was, he says, why did I use guns? Just because I knew that would stir up the gun ban people. I knew it would stir up the controversy. I knew it would get the gun control people going crazy in the United States and in New Zealand. Sure enough, it has, and it's working. We're dancing to the tune of this mass murderer. What stopped the murders? Good guy with a gun. A good guy with a gun stopped the murder. But it wasn't a guy who carried a gun. It wasn't a guy who had a gun. It was a guy who took the murderer's gun from him. Yeah. At the second location, a guy jumped the shooter, wrestled him, took the gun away from him, and now he had a gun. How many times have you heard me say this? There's no guarantee that you will be fighting with your gun. A battlefield pickup, if you will, is just as effective as a gun that you took to the fight, assuming you know how to run it. And therein lies the problem. The guy who picked up the gun actually did not know how to run it. If you are a bolt-action guy or gal, do you know how to fully operate an AR-15? No matter who you are, do you know how to run an AK-47 or its clones or semi-auto clones, whatever? If you don't know what that big thing on the side of it is, that's the safety. You might not have recognized that. If you're serious about this stuff, you will go and learn how to run as many different kinds of guns as possible. Do you know how to clear a malfunction on every kind of semi-auto out there? It's pretty much the same thing as long as you have good technique. Tap rack. It'll work on 90% of the jams. Sometimes bad guys get a jam, they throw down their gun, they go pick up another gun. You pick up the gun they threw down, it's jammed, you do tap rack, you get it back in the fight, now you have a gun. Guy with a gun stopped it before the cops got there, ran him off. Happens every time. They're telling us the response time was, by the time it was all over, 36 minutes. That's a long time to let somebody kill you. I watched the video, and it's horrible, yes. But it's also instructive. And I'm going to tell you some takeaways here. Some of them are hard. Number one, if you curl up in the corner, you're going to die in the corner. People curled up, balled up, hiding in open sight in the corners of rooms, and this guy just shot them all. And then he went back and shot him again to finish him off. There were a lot of opportunities as this guy walked around where one person with one handgun could have shot him and stopped this whole thing. A lot of opportunity. He walked through the doorways. He didn't use any tactics. If you or I had been there, we could have, hunkered down somewhere. And as soon as he walked in the door, just shoot him. Stops it right there. Another takeaway. The police are not going to be there to save you. No one is going to be there to save you. Do not outsource your safety. People say, it's a house of worship. That's terrible. That shouldn't happen. Are you kidding me? I realize that houses of worship are special when you're religious, but it's just a building. Get over that. Not only is it just a building, it's a very attractive building to a murderer. If you decide, I'm not going to carry my gun to church because then you're an idiot. I'm sorry. You just are. You have not thought this through. There's also something here. I'm going to throw this idea out. Somebody suggested it to me. I thought, that's very interesting. Maybe we should be rethinking, and maybe we should be preaching a different kind of response on the part of the public. I look at this video and I think, if 20 people had rushed this guy with their Korans or whatever they had, or with nothing, maybe he kills 10 of them. But 10 of them are going to get to him. And they're going to take him to the ground. And it's going to stop. Maybe we recalibrate the public. And I realize the futility of even suggesting this, okay? But what if you could recalibrate the public so that when there is something like this, a mass killer comes in, instead of everybody running away, you turn and run at him. Talk about upsetting his OODA loop. Holy cow. The sheep turned into wolves. It's like something out of a CGI movie nightmare. Everybody turns and runs at him and takes him down. People say, well, people get killed that way. They're going to get killed if you don't do that. And yes, some probably will get shot and maybe even killed if you do that. But I guarantee you it will be fewer than if you curl up in the corner and pray for mercy from someone who has no mercy. Interesting idea, don't you think? What if we programmed everybody? We talked it up all the time. In an event like this, everybody rushes the bad guy. Everybody. You stop what you're doing and you're just programmed. You run right toward it. You just take him down. Interesting idea. I kind of like that. In the meantime, the takeaways are don't outsource your safety. Learn to use and clear as many type of guns as possible. Recommit to providing your own safety. And go get training. And go get training. And go get training. And training means an instruction, not practice. Practice is not instruction. Practice is not training. Learn from people who think this stuff, who've been there, who've done this stuff. I'm going to be doing that in a couple of weeks. We'll tell you more about that in a minute. 866-TALK-GUN.
Good morning, Mr. Gresham. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to host a radio show that will bring truth and common sense to the discussion of firearms rights in this country. Good luck, Tom, to you and your Tom Gresham's Gun Talk team.
If you have looked at our online video series, First Person Offender, you know what I'm talking about. We take people, regular people, drop them into self-defense situations using simunitions. That's the high-speed paintball. It's kind of law enforcement, military-grade stuff. We have to be certified to use it. It hurts like the devil, which is good. Makes a point. When you screw up, you get shot. And we see what they do. And sometimes it's somebody who has very little training, and sometimes it's someone who has a lot of training. We have to change the scenarios to ramp it up for those who are better trained. If you have never had force-on-force training, I really suggest you try to find some somewhere. It really changes your outlook. Those cardboard targets are interesting, but they're not the same thing. One of the great instructors we've used on the First Person Offender series in the past, Wes Doss, joins us again because he's just about to get cranked up and do this again. Hello, Wes.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
I am well. Of course, we should point out your company, Khyber Training, you spend an awful lot of your time traveling the country teaching firearms techniques and self-defense stuff to a lot of folks, but a lot of them are law enforcement, right?
Right. Our prime audience for many years has always been law enforcement and military. And in the last 8, 9, 10 years, we've started to devote a little bit more time towards the concerned citizen side of the house.
And you've got a strong background in the military. You were Army, if I remember right?
Correct.
Okay. Have you had a chance to see the video of this New Zealand shooter, the video that he shot?
I have. In fact, I've sat through the entire 38-minute video from start to finish. Yeah, me too. And people say, I can't believe you look at it. I say, yeah, you know what? I can't change what he did, but maybe we can learn something from it. And I was just pointing out earlier, I said there were several takeaways. The first one is if you hide in the corner, you're going to die in the corner. What do you think? Yeah, no, absolutely. The ante gets upped no matter what the circumstances are by simply taking action. And people that just sit and take that approach, you're setting yourself up for disaster.
The other thing that occurred to me, and you have way more training, and you're a whole lot better at this than I am, but just as I'm watching him move around, I'm thinking, he's not using any tactics whatsoever. Anybody who had been through one of your courses or any good course anywhere could have used a snub-nosed revolver and stopped that whole thing.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, but you're looking at a cultural difference between here in the U.S. and New Zealand. They're proud of their 36-minute response time that law enforcement had.
Yes.
If that had happened in any jurisdiction here in the country, I mean, within minutes after that first shot rang out, somebody would have already called 911, right, and you'd have had sirens in the background. It's an amazing video where there's just nothing going on except this guy shooting.
And people think you're being flip. They actually were proclaiming they were proud of their 36-minute response time. We're not making this up. And you're going, 36 minutes? And people say, well, and I have people say that, the police can be here quickly. I said, well, how quickly? Well, they can be here within 5 minutes. And I always say, can I take a crowbar and beat on you for 5 minutes? Are you good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lifetime.
So it occurs to me that this event, New Zealand, is horrible as it always is. It is yet another, maybe the latest, wake-up call for people who are serious about this. And I don't know what the percentage is. I always guesstimate there's probably 3% of the country who's actually serious about safety and personal protection, taking care of themselves. The others are sheep. But for those of us who care about this, from your standpoint, and you work with everybody from people who are brand new to it to SWAT teams, what's our takeaway?
There's really a fine line, and this is where the training really comes into play, because it's not just the act of taking action; it's what action are you going to take? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of very well-intended folks that are out there that just have they're really setting themselves up because of misguided information that they've gotten. And the question you always have to ask, when you're caught in one of these situations, are you caught in it, or are you seeing somebody else caught into it? What's the risk you're willing to take? Mm-hmm. And what's your prime directive while you're there to protect yourself and your loved ones, or are you there to protect the rest of society? And you have to weigh these things, and sometimes you're better off not getting involved and being that good witness. And other times you may be money ahead to be involved. But what I think is amazing in this video is, again, in the 21st century where everybody is connected to their phones, and this guy is live streaming onto Facebook. Apparently, nobody was making 911 calls during this engagement.
Yeah, you're going, okay, why aren't the police here? Nobody's calling. I had somebody mention something to me, Wes. I was going to bounce it off of you. He said, and I don't know if this is true. He said, in Israel, one of the things they do is they basically proclaim over and over and over again to the public, when something like this happens, instead of running away, everybody turn and run at this guy. Everybody just run at him. And I thought, wow, that will mess up your OODA loop.
Oh, absolutely. People that engage in ambush type assaults, whether it be against law enforcement or be against citizens, generally walk into those events assuming that you're not going to fight back. I mean, that's the purpose of an ambush, that you're going to catch you at surprise and launch into the attack. Doing something, whether it's attacking back or it's escaping or doing something proactive in that event, changes the odds tremendously, as opposed to just sitting there and letting it happen. In the beginning of that video, when he comes out of his vehicle and he's walking into the courtyard of this mosque, he walks by people on the street and he is armed to the teeth, and nobody even stops him.
He's got an AR slung, and he's carrying a semi-automatic shotgun with him, and he's walking by people on the sidewalk.
Yep, and nobody thinks anything of it.
It's amazing. Hey, Wes, hold on a second. We're talking with Wes Doss from Khyber Training. Check it out, khybertraining.com. We'll be talking about the first-person offender show, our self-protection makeover show, if you will, when we come back. Our number is 866-TALK-GUN.
The next big thing for the AR-15 has arrived. The Brownells BRN 180 Upper, a modernized version of the Armalite AR-180, featuring a 16-inch barrel, a 223 wild chamber, and a full-length pick rail. The BRN 180 skips the buffer system to allow complete function of the firearm with the stock folded or extended. Best of all, the Brownells BRN 180 mounts to any mil-spec AR lower. Visit brownells.com today.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you know you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
When the U.S. military's elite units and law enforcement agencies across the globe demanded innovation and reliability, they didn't settle. They chose Sig Sauer. When world champion professional shooters demanded precision accuracy, they didn't settle. They chose Sig Sauer. So it's no surprise more and more civilian gun owners are refusing to settle for anything less. They're choosing Sig Sauer firearms, ammunition, electro-optics, suppressors, air guns, and training. Sig Sauer. Never settle.
All right, back with the 866 Talk Gun. Get you in there. We're talking with Wes Doss from Khyber Training. And Khyber is Khyber Training, KhyberTraining.com. Wes, you might explain a little bit about what Khyber Training is. What do you do? Hey, Wes, you there? Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
Hello?
Oh, there he is. We got him. We got you back. Okay. Yeah, if you would, explain to folks what Khyber Training is.
Well, Khyber is a specialized emergency response training, research, and consulting firm. We do everything, or have access to almost everything within the high liability realm. We do everything from firearms to tactics to driving to medicine to you name it.
You mentioned medicine. I keep thinking, this is kind of a digression, but if you carry a gun for self-protection, is it a good idea to have at least something to stop bleeding?
Have something or have the know-how, because the blowout kit. It's cool to say, and you've got one on your gun belt when you're at the range or you're in training. But I live in Arizona. It's 125 in August, and I'm on my way to the store to go get something. I'm
where are you going to put it?
Flip-flops. Exactly. Same thing with the gun. So having the wherewithal and the knowledge, and that basic to advanced first aid background, I think that everybody with the responsibility ought to have.
You bring up an interesting point. You're in Arizona. It's 115 degrees. You're wearing shorts. You're wearing a T-shirt. People make adjustments to the type of gun they carry. At first, everybody says, well, I'm going to carry a big gun because that's what I need if I get in a fight. Well, that would be nice. And then they start making adjustments as the reality of what it's like to carry a big gun all the time is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I've always believed in the old adage, carry the biggest gun that you're comfortable with, just because of the nature of the inadequacy of handgun rounds. Mm-hmm. But I will carry again, based on where I'm going. My go-to all the time. I usually have a Ruger LCR, and I can carry that just about any place I want to. If I carry a bigger pistol, and especially in the summertime, it's usually an off-body carry. But you've got to make these modifications. But within those modifications, you have to train on those modifications. You just can't switch from holster to holster or carry mode to carry mode and expect to be able to be proficient at it.
Yeah, if you're going to decide to carry a revolver, an LCR, in a pocket, if you haven't practiced drawing it, extracting it, doing what all that you need to do with it, the middle of a gunfight's a really bad time to acquire new skills.
Well, it's even the platform itself. I watched the video of, I guess, a would-be competitor, a very high-speed, low-drag individual that's out there who did a revolver video, and it's painfully obvious in the video that he's never shot a revolver before because it was very awkward watching him unload, reload. It's like you got to know the platform you're using.
Interesting. Well, once again, we go back to training because there are places that will teach you how to fight with a revolver, how to use a revolver. If you are going to carry one, you ought to go get some training at it.
Absolutely. You know what you're doing.
First-person offender. This week you're going to be coming to Louisiana doing some filming, some video where we take people and drop them into these situations. You might just talk for a second about kind of how this works and what we've done in the past. I mean, I got to tell you, I think it's just a hoot and a half. It's so much fun to do these.
Well, absolutely. The idea of taking a scenario that has happened in the news and running someone through it, because the likelihood of it occurring again, and then seeing how they actually perform with no training or minimal training or just the thought in their head, and then taking them out of it and giving them just a little bit of training, and then throwing them right back into the middle of it with a couple of twists, and seeing how they perform and how they change it's gratifying on an instructor's part, but I think it's a valuable piece of information that we're providing.
One of the things, we're in our 7th year of this, one of the things that surprised me about this, because I thought it was a really good idea, but one of the things that surprised me was how much people improved after only one scenario and after 30 minutes of training. And we run it again, but with twist, as you say. It's never quite the same. And how much better people do.
Oh, I don't think it's necessarily the physical skills, but I think it changes their mindset, their approach to it just a little bit, and they come from that fantasy role where I think I can do this, or I think I saw this one time, or I saw it in the movie one time, and they don't really pull it off the way they expect, and then they get just a little bit of training, and they come back, and it's like, I got it, and they start putting two and two together.
We hear the same things over and over again. I never thought of that, and it happened so fast. Those are the two we hear most often, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It happened so fast.
And it does. It happens fast. And that's part of the value, I think, of doing force-on-force training. You do it over and over, and at first it goes by in a blur. And after you've done a few of them, you are actually able to, and you do this automatically because of your background, you are actually able to think and troubleshoot and problem solve your way through the middle of all this action while it's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is a drawback to it, and we see this frequently in classes where people have had a lot of exposure to the concepts of force-on-force training. That if an instructor doesn't keep control of the scenario, they don't keep it to the heart or the essence of the scenario itself, then the situation can turn into a game, and people start to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do in the real world. So it's not just a matter of having marking rounds or airsoft or any of that kind of stuff. It's you still got to have control of the scenario, and I think that's one of the things, particularly with first-person defender. It's very short and very sweet. So we keep the scenarios. They're pretty much tight and under control.
Right. And that's why we have people like you. That's why we have you there. Look, I got a scoot here. Again, it's KhyberTraining.com for Wes Doss's training. Check it out. He probably coming to a city near you. And check out our First-Person Defender series. Wes, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Tom. Anytime.
All right, you take care. Smart guy. There are not a lot of firearms trainers who have a Ph.D. He does. 866-TALK-GUN. Let's see, and this was because it just makes so much sense. In England, supermarket chain ASDA has pledged to remove all single kitchen knives from sale amid concerns about their use in violent crime. It comes as 41 people have been killed in stabbings in the UK this year. Single kitchen knives are the most frequently stolen knives, ASDA said, prompting the decision to stop their sale at the end of August. And yeah, they want to do that. There are people working to do that same thing in the U.S. Well, in New York, 70,000 people have been arrested for carrying regular old pocket knives. And that's why knife rights exist. If you carry a pocket knife, you might want to consider getting involved, kniferights.org. Let's see. We get these letters. I'm a part-time FFL manufacturer and gunsmith in Oklahoma City. About 20 years ago, there was a small company named Raptor that made rifles, almost an exact copy of the Hoa 1500 bolt gun. Said the company didn't stay around long, but anyway, he needed a trigger sear for it. And he couldn't get one from Hoa. They wouldn't do it. Couldn't find the old company. He said, but I found out that Timney Triggers made a trigger for the Hoa 1500. I contacted them and asked if I could buy just a sear. I didn't mind buying it because I knew I may have to modify it anyway. He says, the lady that emailed me back was extremely helpful and nice. She actually mailed me one for free. While it was in transit, the package got damaged and the part was lost. I contacted her again and asked if I could buy one. She sent the second one out for free. He says, to this day, I point to everyone to Timney for aftermarket triggers for most guns. She did not have to help me as she did, and I will be a customer of theirs always. Yeah, there you go. And then another letter comes in from Ryan. He said, about a month ago, an article came in for my news feed stating the Second Amendment Foundation was fighting another case. And I thought, I really should make a donation to them. So he went online. He was going to put $100 in. Then he says, well, wait a minute. A lifetime membership is $1,500. So he did that. He got a nice plaque and a belt buckle. Then he said, I thought, well, I'm going to upgrade my NRA membership. This was interesting. So he thought, I went on there and said, oh, man, that's $1,500. That's kind of expensive. Then he looked at the website, he says, and I found an option for $25 a month for 5 years. He says, who can't afford $25 a month? He says, that's like 2 boxes of 45 ACP a month. Interesting take, Ryan. Actually, I was saying earlier to somebody, I said, if you want to take one of these really good firearms classes, and some of them are fairly expensive. You've got travel and all, whether it's going to SIG or Gunsight or Thunder Ranch or pick one. It doesn't matter. I said, what if you basically threw in like the cost of a Starbucks coffee a day? And after 2 years, you would have more than enough to go to any gun training class anywhere. We, all of us humans, we show the world what's important to us. It's whatever we put our money and our time toward. Money and time. Those are the two things. Whether it's your family, your kids, your job, whatever. If you are putting more time in at your job and letting your family go, you're telling your family that's more important. People go, yeah, but. I know. Yeah, but. If you're giving lip service to, I'm going to get serious about this whole firearms training deal, but you're not putting any time in at it, and you're not putting any money toward it, you're not really serious about it, are you? Just thinking about, how do we measure what's important to us? It's what you put your money and your time toward. If you're serious about taking care of yourself and your family, and trust me, it's not just, if something happens to you, it happens to your entire family. So don't go thinking, well, it's just me, blah, blah. No, it's all of them. You have to take care of yourself to take care of them. Then you got to make that commitment, time and money. Maybe you don't get to the class this year. Maybe it's 2 years. Maybe it's 3 years. But you can do it. Tell you what, when we come back, we're going to be talking about hunting for a while, also an interesting youth shooting organization, and then we're going to catch you up with the bump stock ban. We are 9 days away from this federal ban. That'll be interesting. 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 Be interesting.